A Millionaire's Heart in Paris, ****. In the heart of Paris, the city of lights and love, there was a man who had everything: wealth, power, and luxury beyond imagination. His name was Alexander Durand, a self-made millionaire whose rise to success had captivated the business world. Yet, despite his riches and influence, there was one thing Alexander lacked, something that no amount of money could buy: love. Paris, with its grand boulevards and enchanting charm, was the perfect backdrop for the life Alexander had built. He owned a penthouse overlooking the Seine, drove the finest cars, and attended the most glamorous parties. But every night, as the Eiffel Tower sparkled against the velvet sky, Alexander felt a growing emptiness. His heart longed for more than wealth or fleeting pleasures. He wanted someone to share his life with, someone who saw beyond the headlines and fortune, who could love him for who he truly was. One late spring evening, Alexander found himself at a charity gala in one of Paris's finest hotels. He had attended more of these events than he could count, but this night felt different. As he stood in the crowd, surrounded by champagne flutes and small talk, his eyes fell upon a woman across the room. She wasn't adorned in the diamonds or designer gowns that filled the room. Instead, she wore a simple black dress, elegant yet understated. Her beauty was captivating, but it wasn't her appearance that drew Alexander in. It was her eyes, bright, curious, and full of life. She wasn't lost in the glamour or distracted by status. She seemed different, real. Her name was Isabelle Laurent, an artist who lived in a small apartment in Montmartre. She painted the city streets, capturing the soul of Paris in every stroke. Isabelle had no interest in the world of wealth and privilege. She was passionate, grounded, and entirely unaware of the attention she had captured that evening. Alexander, known for his confidence and charm, suddenly felt nervous for the first time in years. He watched her for a moment, wondering how someone so unassuming could light up a room. Gathering his courage, he approached her, unsure of what to say for once in his life. "Bonsoir," he began, his deep voice soft with uncertainty. "I couldn't help but notice your work earlier at the charity auction. The painting of the Seine, it was beautiful." Isabelle looked up, surprised that a man like him had noticed something so simple. She smiled politely. "Thank you. It's one of my favorite views in the city." They talked for the rest of the evening, sharing stories about their lives, their passions, and their dreams. To Alexander's surprise, Isabelle wasn't impressed by his wealth or reputation. In fact, she barely seemed aware of it. She asked about his favorite books, his childhood memories, and the things that made him truly happy. No one had ever asked him such personal questions before. As the night went on, Alexander felt something he hadn't felt in years, an undeniable connection. Isabelle was everything he had been searching for but never knew he needed. She was kind, creative, and saw the world with an open heart. For the first time in his life, Alexander realized that love was not about grand gestures or expensive gifts. It was about authenticity, about finding someone who saw you for who you truly were. Over the next few weeks, Alexander found himself spending more time with Isabelle. They walked along the Seine, explored hidden cafes in Le Marais, and spent quiet afternoons in her small studio. Alexander was fascinated by her art, by the way she saw beauty in the simplest things. She taught him to slow down, to appreciate the world in a way he never had before. Their love blossomed slowly, naturally, like the flowers blooming in the gardens of Luxembourg. Alexander no longer cared about the deals he closed or the fortunes he made. He was happiest in Isabelle's presence, where he didn't have to be the millionaire everyone expected him to be. With her, he was just Alexander, a man who had finally found his heart in the city of love. But as their relationship deepened, Alexander began to worry. He hadn't told Isabelle the full truth about his wealth. To her, he was simply a man who lived comfortably, who loved art and Paris as much as she did. He feared that if she knew the extent of his fortune, it would change things between them. Would she see him differently? Would she feel like they came from two different worlds? One evening, as they strolled along the river beneath the stars, Alexander knew he couldn't hide the truth any longer. They stopped at a quiet spot near Pont-Neuf, the oldest bridge in Paris, and he turned to her, his heart racing. "Isabelle," he began, his voice heavy with emotion, "there's something I need to tell you. I haven't been entirely honest about who I am." Isabelle looked at him with concern, sensing his turmoil.